YouTubers, hi, I'm back with the 25th book to 2023, and it's I absolutely adore this book. Okay, it's for kids. I've seen it in Waterstones. I'm recording this in 2022, by the way, October, but this book is fantastic, and it make a cracking TV show. CBeebies get on there. Yep. So I absolutely loved it. So let me start with the blurb and details. It's by Emma Carroll and Lauren Child. The Little Match Girl Strikes Back. I know. Okay, and read the blurb. Bridie works hard to feed her family, so the matches on the streets of Victorian London. After an incident with her leaves only with 3 matches left, the magical strikes of each one sees a tumble into vision of a brighter future. Realizing she has the power to change her own fortune, Bridie leads the match factory workers out on strike, achieving the remarkable through their unity and courage, based on true events this. So, it's very, very clever how it opens as well. It acknowledges the Hans Christian Andersen, Little Match Girl, okay? And, here we go. Once upon a snowy New Year's Eve, a story began. It's called The Little Match Girl, and it was sold, beautifully bound, between chestnut hardcovers at bookshops across the land. The story itself was so sweet and sad, people would snivel into their hankies upon reading it. So it became famous the world over, and made the man who wrote it very rich indeed. I don't suppose he'd ever met a real match girl in his life. If he had, he'd known we weren't all pretty things with fair curls and tiny freezing hands, and that most of us were fed up with being hungry all the time. Loved it. Hans Christian Andersen wrote the original story. It's based on earlier fairy tales as well. Gist of it is Little Match Girl. She can't go home. She's lost a shoe. That's acknowledged in the book as well. That she can't go home because her father beat her because she sold in the matches that day. It's a heartbreaking story. Every match she lights gives her visions of food, family, and the final match is when her grandmother's soul comes down and takes her up to heaven. Okay, Disney did a cracking version of it, sad as anything. It was on the Little Mermaid Platinum Blu-ray, which I actually own, and also if you doesn't everyone think the Little Magic looks a lot bit like Lilo from Lilo and Stitch? Okay, so it's a famous story. It's heartbreaking, it's sad. I've seen several versions of it, and they've all been really good. And this book is brilliant in how it sets out. Acknowledges the Little Match Girl, goes, well, that's their story. This is the real story. This is something else. So Bridie is an Irish immigrant to London. She is very much disenfranchised. Her brother, and her mum, their father is not on the scene. They live in a tiny, squalid place which they pay rent on. The brother's lost his mouse. Yeah. And it's incredible because she is very disenfranchised. Her mother works at a matchstick factory and called Bryant's, and she sells the matches on the streets. So, but at the time, the family is absolutely in dire straits and conditions. And also is this is realism coming in to this. This is page 36. It's called the Factory of Nightmares. The illustrations in this book are so good. Actually based on real pictures, and it's wonderful. Okay, Mum was a dipper, dunking the matches in the phosphorus, which meant she and many other Zykas stood bent over the stuff all day long. That's so much as an open window for air. It was well known that the fumes of making them dippers fall sick. The boss denied it, of course, saying it was drinking gin that made people's teeth go bad, and Mum insisted that it was pure rubbish. Now, phosphorus they used to make matches for the strike was also used to making watches. Now, the dippers used to have to keep, when they would dip it in the phosphorus, have to lick the paintbrushes, and it absolutely ruined their faces. I'm going to put links to under this, but you can see what these women went through, okay, just to survive their family. Their faces were absolutely ruined, and also the implication as well, because they're poor, they're Irish, German Swift, eat the young, is so they're just alcoholics, okay, on the streets. So even they're clearly not. So Bridie, she lost a patch. Patches is where people sell their matches. That's very important even today. A really good 21st century example is the Big Issue magazine, which is a magazine sold by a homeless charity called Big Issue, clearly. And sellers had their own patches, and then they can't move off their patches. They have to sell at this particular spot. So she's lost her patch. She loses her matches. Mr. Bryan almost runs her down, crushes her, where her hog tray. Okay, crushes her tray. So nothing apart from 3 matches. So Bridie has a gift of the gab. Okay, she will talk, she will say these are magical matches, best matches of all time, these matches will make your dreams come true. The implication, as she said it so many times, it's become true. Okay, if you say something so many times, it becomes true. So she likes these matches and she looks at them and she starts making wishes because, you know, she's sitting there in the snow with no money, losing a shoe, and she can go home, okay, but it's going to be difficult because she's got the money, and magic happens. So Birdie wishes for never to be hungry, never to be hungry, and suddenly she's cast into this world where suddenly she's wearing a pretty dress and she's given lots of food. And this bit here, okay, this is when she realizes she's in Mr. Bryant's house. Now Mr. Bryant owns the factory, so she is in this fantasy, well, medical realism, okay, right, is this is the food she's eating within this fantasy, which has been created. This family is becoming fat and healthy and eat good food due to the labour of the matched girls, people in the match factory. So even in the fantasy, there's a sting in the tail. I'm enjoying this food in this fantasy, but it's come from my hard work. This is what I'm denied whilst they eat good food. Right. The meat course arrives next. After that come jellies, creams, trifles, and other savoury courses of pheasant, followed by cheeses and watercress, and a great platter of fruit. My dress, in this fancy, Bird is wearing a nice dress, and growing considerably tighter. The heat from the fire was making me sweat too, but I kept eating, as if I was making up for every meal I've missed in my life in the hope that I'd never be hungry again. Even when I heard my dress seems creaking, I still had it on my plate for more. Yep, very much Oliver Twist as well. I mean, please sir, I want some more. It's clever. Okay, this is Dickensian London. There's a bit of Oliver Twist. I want more. Okay, and then within this fantasy, okay, it's the match she likes is, I wish that rich people like Mr. Bryant didn't have everything, whilst poor families like mine have nothing, I whispered. Okay, and she winds up in Annie's house. Now, Annie is a campaigner who stands out there wanting better conditions for the matchstick factories. Okay, she's a London campaigner, but she doesn't really know of this. I mean, suddenly, within these rules of this fantasy, is no one can see Annie unless she wants them to. The first one, okay, it was clear it's a fantasy. With this one, it's like it becomes a bit more real. So earlier on in the day, Annie had actually seen Birdie, and now Birdie has wound up in Annie's house. But at this juncture, no one can see Birdie until she wants them to. It's quite clever like that. Right, right. And Annie, as a campaigner, doesn't really know. She's like, I'm going to write letters. I'm going to campaign. Okay, right. Action from the workers themselves. But if no one turns up at work in the morning, that would hit Mr. Bryant where it hurts. Yes, in his wallet. Annie agreed warmly to the idea. You're absolutely right. If there's no workers, the factory can't function. He'll lose money. Right. Where do we start? So she meets Annie in Annie's own house, and the campaign begins. The matchstick girl starts striking. At this point, Annie Smells actually lost her job, but because she's ill. But she, the strike begins. The strike begins. The strike begins, and it gathers momentum. Right. What's interesting as well is this: it's not as if a Birdie turns around again, stands up on a table, and says, "We're going out on strike." She is a child. Is she inspires other people, people out of her control. She may have lit, lit the spark, but everything is out of her control because she's a child, and that is acknowledged in universe. Okay, right, right, and this bit here I absolutely loved. Okay, this is when Birdie's talking to Mr. Scott, who's like the um, foreman of the factory. A May Sweeney's girl, I told him, so we were clear. Yesterday evening, you gave my mother the push because she hadn't dipped enough matches. You knew she was ill and off the pain because of her job, but you sacked her anyway. Mrs. Scott laughed wryly. Oh, bravo, a speech worthy of Mr. Dickens, I'm sure. Right. Right. So, yeah, so the strike gains momentum, lots of press, lots of coverage. People start, giving, you know, giving to, giving them food, and until, they get what they need. But of course, kid, there's more strikes to come. Okay, it's not as if the kids are happy and all tied up with a bow. It's a case of there wasn't a strike now on the picket line, waving their banners, and the people who were supporting them. But it was the fact that this isn't over; it's an ongoing thing, and women were still using phosphorus in in the pots for many years after. So, realism, medical realism. I mean, the matches were the free matches, but basically, this is about strikes. It's about women on the picket line striking for better working conditions, which women are still doing today. Okay, so, or people are still doing today. So, it's an incredible book. It's an incredible, incredible book. And one thing I love is it takes the story of the little match girl and kind of twists it into this magical realism. Okay, yes, happy endings do happen, but you have to fight for them. Right, here you go. And I absolutely love this. Okay, if you're looking for a happy ever after to my story, there's only one eventually, and it's sort of how happy in the famous little match girl tale ends. She dies before anyone thinks to help her, and that version is only rich people who learn a moral lesson. The poor match girl ends with nothing, don't even get her slippers back. I love that. Now, as a book, this is very, very clever. Birdie's financial circumstances, the way the world is described, I was caught up in it immediately. And it's an incredible book. And one thing is, this is clearly a kid's book, by the way. This is a fantastic book, okay, to introduce anyone, okay, young children into this kind of world, their lifestyle, their desperate kind of circumstances. It's just all based on true events. This makes it even more, bit more, okay, a bit more important. So I really, really enjoyed this book. It's clever. So Emma Carroll and Lauren Child, fantastic illustrators. Let's look at that. Well done, you. And we'll sign off here. Bye now.